Going live. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Paint Live. I'm just gonna kick on the camera here for about an hour. Do a little bit of painting. You know. Okay, let's go there. Let's go to live streaming. Resident Evil 2 minis. That's what we're working. Okay. Yeah, that is what we're working on tonight. Resident Evil 2 miniatures. Whoa. Hit mute on that sucker. What up, people? There we go. Okay. So we're just kind of messing around with these. Scale is kind of weird, so I don't know. It's a strange scale. That's all I gotta say about it. It is a strange scale. The quality, pretty damn good. But the scale is weird, man. But I don't really have a bitch about it. Like, the sculpt quality is pretty good. Well, let's just do what we do. So I will paint until I get tired or bored or whatever. That's the plan. Paint until we get tired, bored, or whatever. Out. Feeling cute. Thought I might paint some Game of Thrones. Or some Evil 2 shit. And bitch about Game of Thrones. That's right. You came here to listen to me go all fanboy over Game of Thrones and go, oh, it's the best character. Then you came to the wrong show, people. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was entertaining spectacle. When you take off them damn hype glasses and you think about this, just think about it from a storytelling standpoint. It was phenomenally bad. It is catastrophically bad storytelling, right? Like my son, my 5-year-old, can tell a better story than whatever the hell that was that we just watched. It fundamentally underwrote itself. It undercut itself. Right. It distilled the central theme of the show from like a 160 IQ to about 31 IQ. Big smile. They don't smile just yet, man. I don't know what kind of quality we're gonna get out of these. We will see, sir. What's up, Nelson? What is up, sir? Yeah. We'll see what kind of quality we get out of these, but the sculpts are pretty good though. They're just so damn small. These are about the same size as my Room 25 minis. And there's only so much detail you can affect on something this small. But we're doing it anyway, man. So we're painting this shit, and I'm complaining about Game of Thrones. Season 8, Episode 3, The Long Night. And I know everybody is in their full fucking hype gear. Dang, there's a big fight. Oh god, there's a dragon fight, and I saw ghosts, and there's a super fight. Like, yeah, okay. Now, here's the thing. Like, I was with you throughout all that. Like, okay, cool, yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. I was even forgiving the insanely stupid tactics that went into this episode. That's the one thing that outside of the battle for Blackwater, all the way back in season 2, right? Season 2 and the Battle of the Whispering Wood. All of the battles in Game of Thrones are like incredibly stupid. Like incredibly stupid. It would lead me to believe that the showrunners just don't, they want to tell something exciting, and they don't care how much of like military they don't care how much military history or whatever they're willing to completely shit on in order to put together a good spectacle. And I'm two minds about that. On one hand, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get that that's your point, but can we at least try? Can we at least try to bring some sense of logic to these fights? In So was the SJW Avengers Endgame. Oh God. So I didn't watch that, but I did follow the spoilers, and I got some rant about that too. just on just on basic stuff, without really going into the nuts and bolts of the story, because I just won't deign to do that. But that just looked terrible. Like that looked terrible from very, very, very far away, and I couldn't be happier to have stayed away from that. I mean, the main thing with um, Avengers Endgame and Star Wars is that Disney is now trying to make death irrelevant. For the most part. Okay, there's a couple of exceptions, and we can talk about those. But for the most part, they're like, oh, we'll just bring the Emperor back. We'll make it so Luke Skywalker is still kind of a thing, and let's just keep recycling shit because they didn't like the other stuff, and our stupid director in the middle movie killed Snoke in the middle of the movie. So let's make the big bad the same big bad that we had in the original trilogy, right? And with the Infinity War, now I get that that's also what they did, similar to what they did in the comic book, but the whole look back in time and fix everything and bring everybody back, which is what they do in the comic books. Unfortunately, for me, that once you start bringing people back, it just makes it makes death irrelevant. It makes loss irrelevant. And I think and I get that they spend a good amount of time early in the movie trying to show you how the characters deal with loss. But I feel like at any point, it's like, oh, we screwed up. Let's just go back in time now and try to fix all that shit again. But I don't know. I gotta say this. I looked at the end game in terms of like, what would you still say that if there are people who died permanently? Yeah, right. But let's talk about one of the people that died permanently, right? And that was Black Widow. Apparently, died permanently, and so it was like, and then I'm gonna say this and offend probably 0 people that watch my show. But I looked at that and I was like, wait. So is part of Avengers the Avengers movies, the MCU? You're saying we're losing Robert Downey Jr. and we're losing Scarlett Johansson and we're gaining Brie Larson. Like, we are truly fucked. That's kind of how I was like, that is a really significant downgrade. And I and yeah, I'm glad I'm out. Actually did agree with my wife though that I guess over the summer or whatever that we're gonna go through and watch all those movies because she's into the movies and I'm not. Um, I used to read the comic books growing up, and um, you know, and I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Well, what people tell you when you start hating on their shit. Well, why don't you just stick with the original series? I'm like, I am, motherfuckers. I don't watch your shit. I don't watch your shit. I just so don't get in my face and ask me to ask me for some sort of approval on your shit. And when I don't give it to you, you just stick to the original. Like, yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm not watching this crap. I know what you're about. I know that you're not interested in actually, uh, you know, putting together a good story. You have your completely different fan base, and you have completely different wants and needs and all this other stuff. And I've come to terms with that. That's just how it's gonna be when you're a fan of something, and when enough people gather around it, you're fucked, right? Then it becomes, oh, thank you very much. All you know, the money making machine rolls in, and it's like, okay, thank you very much, nerds, for discovering this for us. Now get the fuck out, so we can sell this to the mainstream and make a lot more money. And you guys are kind of ugly and ruining the scene, and we don't like you guys are very unsanitary, so we're gonna gentrify fandom and get you out, right? So they clear us out of there. um they follow what we like, and then as soon as they discover what we like, then they clear us out of there, and then they replace us with a fandom that ironically enough is way more toxic than we will ever be. You know what I mean? Like, way more toxic than we'll ever be. And here's what I'm talking about. Let's pretend I'm gonna use Nelson's figures here, right? Let's pretend this is Resident Evil 2, right? We're like, man, we fucking love Resident Evil 2. It's dope as fuck, right? Because you got Leon S. Kennedy, right? You got Leon, you got Claire Redfield, you got Ada Wong, you got all these cool characters, and then they're all, they're fighting the zombies, and the whole point is, to discover what the problem, the corruption from Umbrella, the corruption in the RPD, and fight the monsters and fight the bad guys, and solve the crime and try to save Raccoon City, right? And so let's say we turn this into a popular thing because we like it so much. So we start creating, like, we buy the products, and we go online, we talk about how much we like Resident Evil 2, and that starts to form a fandom, a community around that, and that community is full of what I would call outcasts. You can't call us nerds anymore. I really firmly believe that you can't call us nerds anymore, because the term nerd has been co-opted, and it's now, now nerd just means basically anybody who just follows mainstream pop culture and owns a certain amount of product, right? So, anyways, so we start liking Resident Evil 2. The corporate money making machine, Disney, they find out, oh, these nerds like Resident Evil 2. So then they start a fan, they start, really putting some money behind this, and they make a production. They make a Resident Evil 2 production. And meanwhile, we're like, oh shit, man, the thing that we liked so much is starting to get popular. They're actually going to make a live action movie or a TV series or some shit around it. Now, funnily enough, this did not happen with the Resident Evil franchise. So me using this as an example, oh, hey, what's up, David? Me using this as a specific example is actually kind of wrong. But I'm just using it as an example of how fandoms grow and how awful they become, right? So you start liking all of this. I mean, you were there at the beginning. You like all this stuff, and the reason why you like it is because you like these characters. You like the story of Raccoon City. You liked the zombies, the T virus, the Umbrella Corporation. You liked all of that, and then as soon as the money mark making machine comes in, they bring in all these other fans, right? And what they start doing is they know that they have us, and they'll take our money to a certain degree, and then at a certain point they don't want us anymore because they don't want the normies to have to deal with us. They don't want the normies to have to um, they want the normies to enjoy this stuff as they present it, and they don't want to have any face any scrutiny for accuracy for anything like that. They just want to make their money and get the fuck out of there, and they want to cash in on something that normies will instinctively think that they like because they saw other people liking it, and then they're essentially being sold the same spectacle. And that's how franchises work. That's how reboots spectacle, and it just keeps getting repackaged in whatever the shit, like the husk or the shell of what we liked. We liked Resident Evil for specific reasons, and then Disney steps in, and they make death irrelevant. Oh, we can bring all the characters back, and then oh, uh, uh, we don't like Leon. He's no longer the main guy anymore. He's just gonna step aside. We're gonna make this guy the main guy. Claire is yeah. We're gonna turn Claire into some sort of political messaging, and then at the end of it, you get that basically you get the Tinder fandom explodes, and it's no longer about this shit at all, right? Because then you have a vocal fan bases like saying, well, I'm shipping this character and this character. And if the showrunners don't make these two characters in a relationship, well, you're fucking homophobic. And there's other parts of the fandom that are like, oh yeah, and we gotta make this character the most powerful of all because, and then at some point, it's just catering to that very vocal fan base. Meanwhile, everybody in the middle is too stupid to realize that they're just watching the same spectacle over and over again. And we're just like the fandom is now more concerned about shipping. They're more concerned about making sure that their character gets the right screen time, that they can identify somehow with their character based on some arbitrary circumstance of birth. I'm left-handed, so they better make the main character left-handed because otherwise it's not going to represent me. And nobody's fucking talking about Resident Evil anymore. Nobody's talking about the T virus anymore. Nobody's talking about Leon S. Kennedy because they replaced that character. Nobody's talking about Claire Redfield. It's that's what happens. The machine takes over, and they start pulling out and like, oh well, hey, this character, she's over sexualized. So even though she helped us sell tickets in the beginning and she's an iconic part of this series, we're gonna fade her out because that's also something we don't like. Also, there's too many guns. There's too many guns in Resident Evil, so let's start taking some of the guns out. I don't really like the messaging that you need guns to survive. So they start changing this shit in fundamental ways. And the minute you point that out, you might as well be a member of the fucking Nazi party, right? At the minute you point out, like, hey man, fundamentally this, you shut the fuck up, you troll. You just die. No one knows. You're just horrible. And you're everything that's wrong, you man baby. Like that's how fandoms work. That's how fandoms work. The minute you like, hey man, can we at least try to tell a decent story here? can we try to stick to some of the central themes of what this was about, because this is why I liked it, and I think that other people will like it because of that. And that's the reason why people came here. And yeah, there are people screaming about shipping this character with this character, and there are other people that want representation of this other character, but they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're going you can put those people in any fandom, and I guarantee you that they don't represent a large portion of your earning of your income. So what you normally watch with a franchise is you're watching the regurgitation of certain beats until they get to the point where they've stripped out the story, they've stripped out the characters, they've stripped out the essence of what it was, and they just keep rerunning the same stuff and slapping the same title on it. King Ra. The Oh man, I've been watching a lot of Fist of the North Star clips lately because I still love Fist of the North Star. But can you imagine we if Fist of the North Star, let's say Fist of the North Star became the most popular thing, how much they would have to clean out of Fist of the North Star to make it palatable to a mainstream audience, right? Like, oh well, you can't have Julia as the reason why Ken and Shin fight, because that's a deeply sexist thing, right? Because she's just the prize to be won. So you got to take that out of the main story, which is like one of the initial central conflicts. Then you have to take out all the gratuitous violence. You have to take out, you can't have Ken healing the little girl and giving her voice back, because it's creepy, because now you have an adult guy that's like, touching a young girl, and not like in a sexual way, but even then we can't make it. Like, they would have to strip out so much of Fist of the North Star to make it palatable. But what they forgot, that what made Fist of the North Star, they just refused to acknowledge what made Fist of the North Star cool to begin with, was the fact that it was ultraviolet, was the fact that it was they're depicting an incredibly cruel world, and they're trying to show you just how awful it was to try to survive in the world. And then, with Ken, they're trying to show you a very powerful being that kills people in very gruesome ways. That's what we liked about it, right? We like James Bond because he's a super guy, and him being a womanizer is part of that. It's part of his character, and he's a popular character. And you start stripping away core things like that about James Bond. Well, no one wants to watch James Bond anymore. And the minute you call it out, then it's like, well, you're a dick. You you're just hating. Don't be a hater. Like, no, honestly, we're not a hater. We're speaking up because we're fans, because we like this for the essence of what it was, and you've stripped that out. If I were to, especially with the new Star Wars, if I were to say, explain to my kids what Star Wars is about, starting with chapters 4, 5, and 6, I would say, well, it's this Star Wars is about this deeply misled kid named Luke Skywalker, who falls into a religious subplot of being a Jedi by this deeply misled man. They then go form a rebellion to try to crush the Empire, and they're trying to convert the Chosen One, who they think is Darth Vader, who's supposed to bring balance to the Force. Ultimately, they end up being the antagonists of the story, because they end up taking an empire fighting that empire until they made it stronger and stronger. And then at the end of it, Darth Vader supposedly brings balance back to the Force by killing the Emperor, but he fails in that as well because we all know the Emperor comes back. So ultimately, 4, 5, and 6 are about building up a better, stronger empire. Because when they come back in the Force Awakens, yes, they're called the First Order, but they have a more powerful weapon. They have the Knights of Ren. They have a more devious plan to conquer the galaxy. And meanwhile, their 30 years have gone back with the rebellion, not just failing to bring peace to the galaxy, but they bring a level of unrest that only makes the empire stronger. So I make this argument, like if I'm going to tell, this is what Disney and retconning and being stupid with storytelling has done. Because if you keep bringing back the same characters over and over again, you make death irrelevant, but two, you have to objectively look back and go, oh shit, so Han, Leia, and Luke were ultimately the worst things that could happen to a free galaxy because they ended up making a stronger, more powerful adversary at the end of it. And Darth Vader cannot be the prophesied one to bring balance to the Force because he never did bring balance to the Force. He just he threw the Emperor away and the Emperor hid for 30 years. And essentially Luke Skywalker jacked off on some rock for 30 years. Like this is not heroic storytelling. Like if I'm going to objectively tell my kids or the next generation about Star Wars, I'm going to tell them that Star Wars is about a bunch of failures that make their enemies stronger with each passing movie. And you can't and change my mind. You cannot change my mind. Tell me that objectively that is not true. That if Luke Skywalker never happened, if we were to follow the stream of events as they're laid out right now, that if Luke Skywalker never happened and he never ran into Han Solo, and they never rescued the princess, that would the Empire be stronger or weaker? Would the galaxy have more peace or less peace? And my argument is that the Empire would be weaker and the galaxy would be more peaceful if they had never done anything. And that's the most fucked up thing you could say. If they had never done anything, then the galaxy would be in better shape. That's some sobering shit, man. And nobody intended to tell that story, but look at it objectively. That's the story that they now have in front of them. That's the story that they've told. Hey, what's up, Shadowcat? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, you guys are welcome to try to change my mind, but objectively, that's how I see it. So, and then I asked regarding the whole Game of Thrones thing. I asked my wife this. I said, okay, so now that the whole Azor Ahai shit is over, and that was never a thing, and the Night King is he was a side plot. He wasn't the big bad. The story of Game of Thrones, as we once understood it, was you have all of these powerful families, these noble families that are essentially squabbling over the throne of Westeros. They're fighting for power, but ultimately that struggle for power is meaningless and futile because there is this greater threat to all living things, right? That the White Walker threat, the winter is coming. The long night is here. The battle between the Lord of Light and the others. That is the Great War. That's truly what we all need to be interested in, right? We were sold that for 8 seasons, and suddenly it's all over. And so we have the so we have the back half of this entire season to underwrite that entire narrative, because the end of Game of Thrones now is, well, now it is important who wins class president, right? You're basically saying, oh, we saved all living things on Westeros. Oh, that's great, but who gets to sit on this fucking throne? That's that's the big bad. That's the central conflict, right? Wow. Wow, is that shitty? And now you're gonna. So the question I asked my wife, and I'm gonna ask you guys this, is if you, for those of you who watch Game of Thrones, if you were a Westerosi citizen that did not live in the North, do you have any real reason to oppose uh, Cersei as queen? Because as far as I can see, yeah, Cersei blew up the septum, right? She the whatever whatever the hell that religious thing is. She blew up the temple, but you can argue that what she really did was she eliminated a number of corrupt nobility, and she destroyed an oppressive religious regime from King's Landing. So not only did Cersei do that, Cersei also, for once in the past 25 years, actually uh, actually cleared the crown of all the debt. Um, she, that would be like a president coming in and fixing our deficit, just coming in and wiping it out. I mean, like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to get rid of it. It would be like a president coming into office and saying, okay, I'm going to eliminate 25 senators and House representatives because they're corrupt and useless. We're going to completely implement the separation of church and state by blowing up the fucking church. Then I'm going to balance this budget. Is there anyone in Westeros that's like, that's a bad ruler? And meanwhile, you have Danny on the other side of this, right? The queen that brought the invading Dothraki over, that is threatening to burn down King's Landing from the north. That she's gonna take all of those people that she fought with in the north. That everybody, this massive, tremendous loss of life. That they finally overcame, the death and winter itself, and she's gonna say, okay, now everybody that lived, go fight in this war so I can sit on this fucking throne. Like, and she's the good guy. Put that into perspective. Is she? Is she the good guy? Because if I was one of those Westerosi citizens, I'd been like, nah, man, Cersei is all right. Yeah, she does some weird kinky shit with her brother, but she restored, she cleared the crown of all debt. She got rid of that stupid High Sparrow and that oppressive religion. There is no complaints or no visible evidence that that Cersei's kingdom is doing any worse off than it was under Robert Baratheon. In fact, it's doing a lot better. And so we want to disrupt that with a lady whose idea of ruling the Seven Kingdoms means flying dragons over the castle and burning people to death. That's the good guy. Where the hell did this entire story just come completely off the rails, is what I want to know. And how the hell do you justify that that's the side that you're on, right? The other thing is too, if you were a Northman now, let's say you were a Northman and you fought in the battle for the dawn, you fought in the long night, and 90% of everybody you knew and loved died in the long night. And you just, now you find, and you made it to the morning, you made it to the next day. And now all you really want to try to live the rest of your days, right? You should, if you fought in that battle, you should never want to or have to fight another day in your life again. And you're telling me that this person is like, no, yeah, we defeated death itself, but let's go fight this stupid, let's go back to the stupid bickering and war that we were at before. You, survivor that made it through the long night, turn around, march down to King's Landing as an invader, and die at the hands of another living person. Bullshit, man. At that point, man, if I made it through the long night, I paid my dues. I'm gonna desert the army. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna head down to the Riverlands. I'm gonna go find me a I'm gonna find me a Roz or somebody nice to settle down, and I'm gonna hide. That's it. And anyone come to my house, you need to fight around me, like, bitch, I fought for, like, we saved humanity. I'm not fighting anymore. Like, really, we're gonna have the entire second half of the season is gonna be about who gets to win class president. Really? Really? That's we're just gonna we're just gonna completely underwrite the central theme of the book, which is no one gives a shit about who's sitting on the throne if winter comes, and they call it winter is coming. Like, what should we call it now? Oh, everybody wants to sit on the throne. What kind of shit is that? How is that even a remotely interesting story? I don't know. I don't know. Which is why do we? Yeah, can't finish a sentence right now because uh, it's completely dumbfounding to me that any of this is making sense to anybody. Why? Like, why should you? If they're gonna go right back to squabbling, you know, my hope is that like a lot of the wiser characters just get and leave. Because here's the other part of the strategy too. Say, for example, let's say Danny, like I was suddenly, I'm like, okay, Team Danny, let's get her on the throne, or even Team John, whatever. Team not Cersei. Let's say I'm on Team not Cersei and I want to get her on the throne, right? And Jamie just came up to Winterfell and told us, well, she hired the Golden Company. Like, she cleared the entire crown of its debt and then turned around and borrowed a ton more money to hire the Golden Company to come, to come root Danny out and the invaders. Well, if you're on Team Danny, then the thing that makes the most sense is to wait it out, right? Get to a fortified position, get to Dragonstone, or get to anything standing. Winterfell, you might have some time to rebuild it, but the onus is on the crown. The onus is on on Cersei to come get Danny, not the other way around, because she's on borrowed time. Danny's got all the time in the world now. She's gonna in fact, the longer she waits, the better the situation becomes because the North becomes stronger. She can start to rebuild her armies. Meanwhile, Cersei's gonna start facing this mounting bill, and the Golden Company are gonna feel pressured to accomplish their contract, right? So they're gonna go hunting for her. Why should you even go near King's Landing? Why would you even go near where they clearly have the advantage? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you play the attrition game at this point, and keep the onus on them? Danny ain't gonna, she's not on any borrowed time. She's not on any borrowed money. Apparently she has the support of the Northmen now because they fought together and they defended humanity together. She could easily start to spend that time to rally people in Dorne, rally people. She should actually marry Robin Arryn, right? The most powerful dude in Westeros. Nobody believes me, but he is. He still has the Knights of the Vale. He's largely untouched. His kingdom is still very well intact. Do we not? Are people not thinking this through, or are we just like her best move would be because John sucks now and is basically worthless, and he should not want any part in the war for the crown, not if he's true to his character. Then the smartest thing for her to do would be to marry that sweet Robin, the Vale, rally people in Dorne, and then just sit this shit out. Wait for the Golden Company to go, hey, you know what? You know what, Cersei? We're having a hard time completing our contract. We need more money. And she's gonna be like, oh, the crown has no more money, right? And let let Cersei's plan erode from the inside. It's gonna be much down there. We'll root her out. That that is so incredibly stupid, and it doesn't make sense. But I mean, whatever. Whatever, guys. It's all good, man. What color is this guy? I gotta look up these characters real quick. So, tell me I'm wrong. I mean, tell me if I'm talking mad shit and none of it makes sense, then go ahead and tell me. But has anyone else kind of thought this through logically, like what you should do if Dany really wants the crown? Because she had her chance to burn all that shit down, win it in one stroke, but then Tyrion ruined all that with his let's take Castle Rock like a dumbass. But now that actually is the better strategy because they don't have a borrowed army. Cersei does. They don't, you know. Man, sorry to burn it for you, but yeah, Game of Thrones had, I don't know. I'm still one of those people that was like, yeah, it was much better when they had Martin, when they had the books to follow, and I watched a video about why why one person thought Game of Thrones sucked, and why it sucked now as opposed to why it was better before. And I loved his explanation. I'll try to find his video for you guys, but essentially he boiled it down to this. He said, well, when they had Martin's writings to follow the story by, then essentially what you were watching when you're watching Game of Thrones is Martin's very set standard of rules to playing the Game of Thrones, and then Martin developing characters to play the game, and then watching them make the right moves to survive or the wrong moves to die. And what was interesting about Game of Thrones was the fact that it was completely absent of morality, meaning the bad guys could perform just as well, if not better, than the good guys at playing the Game of Thrones because they understood the set of rules for the Game of Thrones. While there were plenty of good guys that failed at the Game of Thrones because they were hindered by their own sense of honor or morality or or something like that. So it was much more interesting to watch because and it was easier to tell those stories with developed characters because that's how it followed. It followed a logical progression, and you got to watch a character stay, make decisions as that character, and then either win or lose the Game of Thrones. After Martin's books, the show writers went back to a setup and payoff formula where a lot of storytelling is based on like uh, some sort of moral balancing of the universe, right? Like the whole idea that Martin was trying to say was that revenge was bad and that war is a horrible thing. But you go watch the Battle of the Bastards, which was written post Martin, then the story of the Battle of the Bastards is they win by waging war, and Sansa gets her direct moral revenge on Ramsay, which runs contrary to everything that the show is trying to say, or that I should say the books were trying to say. You know, it's not, and then that's why it's just no longer interesting. And I think what we're watching now is a further de-evolution from that, to where it's almost just straight fan service. Like, we're not even like, there's nothing in the story makes sense. The characters, none of the characters uh, are well, not none of the characters, but a significant amount of the characters are not what we loved about them before. Like, perfect example, right? If you were to talk to people um, within seasons 1 through 5 of Game of Thrones, you could ask them, who's your favorite character, right? Who's your favorite character in Game of Thrones? And a lot of people would say, okay, Daenerys. A lot of people would say Jon Snow. A lot of people would say Arya. A lot of people would say Tyrion, right? At least 25% of people watching Game of Thrones from season 1 to 5 would say Tyrion. Ask that question today. Tyrion is one of the lamest characters on the show now. He is not just worthless now. He is actually wrecking the fabric of the show, because he's supposed to be, I drink and I know things. Bitch, you don't know. You are the dumbest character on the show now. Tyrion makes gargantuan mistakes now. Tyrion hasn't had a good call, like I said, since season 4, really. So he's had 4 seasons of being completely stupid. Where the hell are the characters on this? Sorry, I'm looking for where are the characters? Gameplay, plot. Where's the characters? And it's because they just made him dumber and dumber and dumber, and he doesn't even work anymore, because he's supposed to be real quippy, and he's supposed to be he's supposed to be real sarcastic, but none of that works anymore if you're not actually smart. If you're not actually Resident Evil 2 characters. Now he just comes off like a fucking charlatan or a poser, because he's like still sitting around drinking his wine, like, I drink and I know things. And you're like, okay, what do you know? One, you know how to fuck up a sure win at King's Landing by sending troops to Castle Rock where no one gives a shit, and thereby losing the Ironborn, losing Dorne and losing the Tyrells at the same time. 2, you come up with this plot to send people north of the Wall to go collect a white. That ends up getting one of Dany's dragons killed. That ends up allowing the Night King to get past the Wall. And those are just 2 of the bigger examples. But if you look at every decision Tyrion has made from the middle of season 5 on, they have been phenomenally dumb, right? They have been legendarily stupid. It's like, oh, hey, Tyrion, my house is on fire. He would say, oh, I've got this brilliant idea. Throw more gasoline on your house. It'll work. I drink and I know things. That's how stupid Tyrion is now. And he's easily the worst character on the show. And that's because writers, without Martin, without sticking to those rules and just trying to give fan service payoffs, Tyrion has nothing to do. So now he is literally the shittiest character on the show. And all the other and all the characters, for the most part, have just been kind of wrecked. Some of the characters have made it okay. It's still one of the best characters on the show. Theon's arc, they actually handled that very well, and they ended that very well. So they did a couple things right? But a lot of these other characters, like that were once good characters, are just terrible now. Like, what does Varys do now? Varys is completely useless now. What do you what do you do with these? You have all these other characters now. Where the hell are? Oh my gosh! I just need to. I don't need the actual stupid Wikipedia page. Resident. Here we go. But it's that's the show has degraded to that point. It's they they literally cannot tell a good story anymore. Okay, there's a good Claire Redfield photo. So she kind of has like a gray shirt underneath, and like kind of like red brown hair. Okay, we're gonna work on some of this. I know it's almost 11, but we're gonna paint through these. You'll be all right on these, right, Nelson? Yeah. I don't know. Anybody else notice that? Like Tyrion did actually used to be one of my favorite characters on the show. Specifically, like his whole arc in season 3, where he was, where he was acting Hand of the King and all the cool shit he did in King's Landing and Battle of the Blackwater. Now, and that was to my earlier point, right? Militarily, the battles made a lot of sense. If you look at Battle of the Blackwater, like, okay, here we're trying to handle this invading fleet, and Tyrion comes up with the plan to use the wildfire, and then they have various defenses around what is essentially the beachhead, Stannis's beachhead, and defending the Red Keep itself from invaders. And there was and on a shoestring budget compared to what they have now. Think about how that battle made sense, how the Battle of the Whispering Wood made sense, and now compare that to Battle of the Bastards, which militarily made sense if we were talking about a battle that happened in 500 BC. Then it would make sense. And then look at the battle that we had last night. Was it good spectacle? Absolutely, it's good spectacle, right? It's yeah, that's really cool. There was this lighted charge that happened, but militarily, it was the dumbest thing ever. I would have liked to see, some real thought going into how to defend Winterfell, and actually have seen an extremely high measure. I was hoping to see an extremely effective battle plan, especially with that many brains involved in the operation. Some of the best military minds in all of the land were present. You had Jaime Lannister in that room. You had Jon Snow is shit at strategy. Jon Snow has not planned a good battle ever. But you even have Davos, you have Brienne in there, you have Tyrion in there. You have a number of people in that room that could make that battle really cool. But instead, the plan that they come up with, other than Bran using Bran as bait, is pretty terrible, right? Pretty shitty, top to bottom. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna calm down on the ranting, because it's a lot of ranting. I do get that, guys. I do get that. Okay. For me, the one I can admit to you fully that the only thing I was really looking forward to this season was the face off, the battle against the Night King, and I the whole I should have the throne because of my birth name and all this stuff, and I'm the dragon. whatnot, and then the R plus L equals J. Stuff I had no interest in. What color is this insignia on her back? Does anyone know? Can anyone tell me? Curious. I want to say it's yellow. I don't remember from the game. I don't remember. We'll paint it. We'll paint it up in a minute. So with all that said, I'm still going to finish watching it. It's something my wife and I do together. I need to learn to not. I mean, I think I've gotten pretty good at holding my tongue when I watch the show now with her, so she doesn't have to deal with my immediate. Well, this is stupid because X Y Z. So I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah, I do plan on finishing the series with her. I just do not have much hope in it. This red is not a good red. It's too glossy. It's way glossy. It's a super bright red. We're going to dull down the red. And then I'm going to figure out what color to paint the whatever that is on her back. She also seems to have a knife strapped by her face. Probably not a good place to have a knife with the blade. See how the blade is like pointing up there right at her face? It's probably not a good. Oh, this is an alt costume. Okay. Well, I remember the jean shorts. She had jean shorts and she had a gray shirt. Wow, this red sucks. Let's use a different red for Ada's dress. I was going to use that same red for Ada's dress, but just thing looks like nail polish. That's really shit. Do I have like a carmine red or something? There we go. Yeah, we'll use a carmine red for Ada's dress. So, in other news, my son and I have been playing Relic Blade. And if you guys have been watching the channel, I've been uploading some games of Relic Blade on. And a lot of the guys, the Guild Ball guys, want to play it now, which is cool and it's super fun. It's nice. Like it's a very relaxing game compared to Guild Ball, but it's much more swingy. It's like, you rolled like shit, and I rolled great. You die, the game's about it. But it's also a super good. I consider it to be a super good gateway tool for getting people into miniatures gaming as their first miniatures game. And to that point, I've been teaching my son how to play the game, but specifically teaching him how to do things like move. Like we've been concentrating on teaching him how to move his miniatures around properly, how distances, how to check, calculate the dice he needs and the scores he needs. He loved it. In fact, we played again tonight, and he he was the one that like he begged his mom to let him, before bed play a game with me. And we're playing campaign mode, and I told him, uh, I told him, and he had enough influence to buy a third character, so he was really excited to buy his third character, and he finally did. He bought himself a basilisk. Those things are brutal. He ended up tabling my entire team, which was hilarious. And it actually led to my geomancer dying permanently. So that was cool. Watching any anime. Uh, not I have not been watching any anime. Wanting to One of the shows I want to pick up and watch season 2. I need to do that because I know season 2 is out. You've been watching Rise of the Shield Hero. I've heard a lot about Rise of the Shield Hero, um, and I hear um, I hear you hear about it because of the controversy of the story, but then it also sounds like objectively, it's a pretty interesting anime. So I would be interested in if that's something you recommend. I'm sure I can like watch that on Crunchyroll or something, right? I thought this was the Ada Wong that was in the full evening gown, but this is like she's got tights on underneath the skirt. Just looks really kind of weird. It's almost like an early '90s feel to that, right? Jill's best with this red. Okay. Oh, I did actually just think of what that super bright red's good for. Let's do that before I forget and finish doing this. Just like tennis shoes on. I'll just do. I messed up a little there, but it's okay. She's wearing flats, and I thought she'd be wearing heels. Yeah, this is. See how that's just way shiny. I don't know why it's so shiny. I'm just gonna go over it with this to dull it down than anything. I don't even really need to change the hue. It's just that thing looks like gloss on there. Okay. Meanwhile, we can take that super bright red. Oh shoot, it's already 11. I have to call it here pretty soon. And do Hanku's eyes. Hanku. Cool. We'll get back to him when we start painting like the the cop outfits and all that stuff. Ada is a pretty simple paint job. Favorite that bright red and black. Ada Wong. If I wasn't renting so much, probably could have finished. Oops. Probably could have finished these. Just clean that up off her back. Ooh. There you go. All right. Does Ada have pinstripes on her dress that need to be painted? There's a stripe running up and down. Should I paint those is my question. I'm inclined to think yes. I don't know if it'll look weird or what. Okay. So some black tights there. For Miss E. Really don't need to do too much to these to make these look decent. I'll get a color for that. She's got a key on her. Let's try a white pinstripe on her dress and see if we like it or not. It looks kind of cool without it. Looks pretty cool without it, but what? Wait, I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. Did you find out what you had to do with your lizards? Oh, my lizards that are copulating right now. They're not. Luckily, they're not they're not sexually mature yet, and my female is not gravid, so we're okay for next couple of months. They're going to be, they're coming up on 1 years old. I don't recall exactly what age they become sexually mature, but I think it might be 1 years old. And at that point, we got to decide: are we gonna separate them, get them, get a second terrarium set up so we can separate them, or are we gonna let it happen and then dropping an egg laying chamber in there and seeing if we can breed? I would prefer the former. Just separate them out, not have to deal with you know the added responsibility of trying to incubate eggs, and then you know I think. Well, let me ask you this: if we did actually breed them, would you be interested in getting having some of those babies taking care of baby crested geckos? My wife thinks that we might be able to sell them. I don't know. That that doesn't seem like a great plan because I don't know that we're obviously not reputable breeders. So we could probably sell them to somebody for like a very, very cheap price, but it definitely would not, at least not immediately, be anything very profitable to do. I don't know how I feel about these pinstripes. These pinstripes are visible on the model. So if you like them, leave them. If not, I can just easily paint over them. Oh, well, I have to fix that one anyway. If your coworkers want them, that's probably fine. And if they knew, I'm not. They want hatchlings, or do we raise them to a certain point and then give them to your coworkers? Because there's kind of a little more skill involved in taking care of hatchlings. Although cresties are super easy to take care of. Cresties have been, of all the reptiles I've taken care of, they've been one of the easiest. I would say I hadn't easier for me with leopard geckos. And the only difference is I didn't have to miss the tank. Leopard geckos, you basically feed them insects and you dust your insects and you give them a basking spot and a couple of hides. And my leopard geckos were very easy to take care of. Nope, keep doing that. Okay, so those look good. I'll just trim that. It's kind of a weird spot for a pinstripe too, but that is what it is. And I forget what color are Claire's boots and stuff. We need more pictures of Claire. Let's look at all that. So that's the original, the 19. So this actually is the 1998 version where she actually has. Let's do that. Let's use like that sunset red color. So this should be kind of cool. And actually, I might mix a little bit more brown into her hair. I wish I could see the back of her outfit. Oh, that's way cooler. I'm a fan of this. So in the 1998 version, this Claire here has, it's almost like a pink onesie, and then she has black tights underneath all of it. Like she has it's almost like a black bodysuit she's wearing underneath. That's wild. Okay. And even that is black. She's just wearing a lot of black. Okay. So we'll at least get her mostly base coated. Then we'll work on the cops tomorrow. Get those all taken care of. I think that I wish that these were a little bit bigger because they're pretty damn good quality minis. They just need to be a little bit bigger. The feedback. Going to any conventions? I went to the only convention I've been going to for the past couple of years is Kingdom Con, and now that's over, and it makes me sad. No more Kingdom Con, and therefore probably no more convention for me anymore. Yeah, these aren't even 25 millimeters. Like I wouldn't even. I would not call these 25 millimeter. All right, let's do. I need another brown that's not that brown. Thought I had like a beastie. Oh, I do have a good brown up here. Okay. Ooh, that's a much better brown. Okay. She has brown boots. If you don't like this color scheme, sorry. I'm just going directly off of the wiki for the 19, because this is the 1998 Claire. And these are the colors that she is. You love it. Spoken like the McDonald's commercial. McDonald's. I think with Leon too, I want to stick with the 1988 color scheme because I'm old and that's how I remember Resident Evil 2. So weird. Now that's kind of cool. Now came to the States in 1988, 1998. RE2 is literally one of the first video games I ever played. Now, did you ever? Did you? I think there was a time limit to beating the game. You had to do a one pass through the game in under, I want to say under an hour, and then you get the rocket launcher. Am I remembering that correctly? Then you start. Then you can get you get the rocket launcher, and then the game is just super easy mode after that. Because then you could just blow shit up. Oops. And I think there was we we ended up doing that. Like we ended up unlocking the rocket launcher, and then we would push ourselves for even faster times. Right. I think the original threshold was 2 hours, and then we used to just play it to try to beat the game in 1 hour. Okay, so we'll let this dry. We'll let her. I mean, mostly the people we got was Ada and Claire, and then we'll do all the dudes a little bit later. So this guy, I think he has a brown uniform, but in the 1998 version, he has a blue cop uniform. And I love that 1998, the blue. So I'll probably do him in the blue uniform. Just looks so much more classic. Anyway, it is 11:30. And I gotta get up for that bullshit we call work. So I am gonna call this stream here. That's gonna do it for this video. I want to thank everyone for watching. Yeah. Have a good one, everybody. Good night. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.